So guys, before I begin, if you can, please share and comment on this video, subscribe to the channel and smash the like buttons. So guys, this next news story, it's coming from Slough. Two men have been convicted of murder after stabbing a 24-year-old to death in Slough. Mohammed Rafaqit Kayani was stabbed at around 1:30 in the afternoon on August the 30th last year. He was found with serious injuries and taken to hospital but died a short while later. Hassan Al-Kubanji, who's 22 of London, and Riaz Miah, who's 21, were both found guilty of one count of murder at Reading Crown Court yesterday. Miah had pleaded guilty to possession of a blade, sharp-pointed article in a public place, and 2 counts of possession with intent to supply a Class A drug, which was heroin and cocaine. There was another man, Miguel Parian John, who's 41 of Slough, was found guilty of 1 count of each assisting an offender and possession of a blade, pointed article in a public place. They're all going to be sentenced at a later date. Following the conviction, an incident in the courtroom led to one of the defendants getting injured, prompting 2 further arrests, one on suspicion of a public order offence and the other on suspicion of assaulting an emergency worker. So with regards to that incident, His Majesty's Court and Tribunal Service said an incident at Reading Crown Court today resulted in minor injuries to a defendant. Police swiftly brought the incident under control and are now investigating. Any individuals who are disruptive or violent in court face longer behind bars. So during the trial, it was heard that Mr. Kayani was chased from a park in Concord Way to a Slough Hindu temple on Keel Drive at around 1 o'clock in the afternoon after a confrontation. There was CCTV footage which was shown to the jury of the chase, where it was highlighted that the 2 defendants appeared to be holding machete-type weapons. The police haven't released this CCTV footage yet. It may be at the time of sentencing. The prosecutor said at the time it's the Crown's case that Mr. Kayani was killed by Mr. Miah and Mr. Al-Kubanji. He said it's the Crown's case that they are drug dealers in the London area who travel to Slough to sell Class A drugs. He said on August the 30th last year, Mr. Kayani was chased down and brutally killed in broad daylight close to a playground and near a Hindu temple in Slough. Some sort of confrontation took place, which led to the victim running from the park into the grounds of the temple. Mr. Kayani was then stabbed and killed. Why this confrontation occurred may or may not come out during the trial, but the fact is, the victim was killed. The jury was also shown CCTV footage of the incident which took place near the Hindu temple, and the prosecutor described the footage as the men striking each other before Al-Kubanji allegedly held Mr. Kayani's arm behind his back. He said there is a slash to the right shoulder area, then Mr. Kayani falls to the ground. The defendants can be then seen leaving the temple grounds and heading back on the road. It's believed that Mr. Miah and Al-Kubanji was staying at the third person John's home, who Mr. Hughes described as a drug user. So just want to say rest in peace, Mr. Kayani, and my condolences go out to your family. Senior Investigating Officer Detective Chief Inspector Dejan Avmaravovich, who's part of the Major Crime Unit, said today the jury has concluded that the 2 defendants tragically murdered the victim in Slough. Rafaqit sustained a fatal stab wound to the chest and tragically died in hospital shortly afterwards. I hope that the conviction will in some way help his family, and our thoughts are very much remain with them. The conviction provides a clear message that we will not tolerate knife crime in Slough or anywhere else in the Thames Valley. So guys, once again, I just want to say rest in peace, Rafaqit, and my condolences go out to your family. Guys, in another story coming from Slough, a woman and a man have been sentenced in connection with an arson conspiracy. Noor Fatima, who's 24, was sentenced to 9 years in prison after being found guilty by a unanimous jury verdict of 1 count of conspiracy to commit arson with intent to endanger life. Gufran Ahmed, who's 27, pleaded guilty to the same offence and was sentenced to 8 years and 9 months imprisonment. So basically in July 2019, Fatima was dismissed from her job at a cinema. On the 1st of December 2019, Fatima bought 5 litres of petrol and made her way to the cinema. Ahmed, who still worked there, let her in through a fire exit door. Fatima then poured the petrol over the fire exit, which was behind 2 screens on the top floor. She then left to buy a lighter and returned to the cinema. However, she did not set the petrol alight and she left the cinema. Due to the smell of the petrol, around 150 customers had to be evacuated from the cinema and no one was injured. Fatima was arrested on the 2nd of December 2019 and Ahmed was arrested on the 5th of February 2020 and they were both charged. Investigating officer Detective Sergeant Thomas Harmon, based at Slough Police Station, said, "Thankfully no one was injured as a result of Fatima and Ahmed's actions. If the petrol had ignited, people would have rushed to the fire exit only to find that's where the fire was and could have sustained serious injuries as a result." Fatima and Ahmed will now spend a significant amount of time in prison reflecting how serious this incident could have been. Thanks to the cinema staff and members of the fire service, no one was injured. And in a news story coming from Sheffield, a 23-year-old dealer has been jailed for over 3 years this week. Francis Sukwa was stopped by officers in February this year after he was spotted using his mobile phone while driving in the Norfolk Park area of Sheffield. Stopping his car, officers noticed Sukwa behaving oddly, so proceeded to search him and found 42 wraps of heroin and 34 wraps of crack cocaine in his pockets. He was also carrying a bag containing 3 mobile phones and a large quantity of cash. He had tried to run from officers, but he was pursued and arrested. Checks on his vehicle also revealed that he was driving with no license or insurance. PC Lily Richmond said, "Drug dealing is often the root cause of antisocial behaviour and violent crime and is a major concern for our communities." Sukwa was found to have had significant quantities of drugs on him, and during a search of his home we also recovered 4 further containers of drugs, phones, cash and pepper spray. Without our intervention, these dangerous Class A substances would otherwise have ended up in our communities. I am pleased that he is now off the streets for a significant amount of time and hope this sends a warning to others involved in this type of criminality that it will not be tolerated. So following a hearing at Sheffield Crown Court, Sukwa pleaded guilty to 2 counts of possession with intent to supply Class A drugs and he was sentenced to 3 years and 9 months in prison. And in a news story coming from Nottingham Ways, a knifeman who stabbed a man multiple times including to his head has been locked up for 23 years. The 28-year-old victim was taken to hospital for surgery after he was viciously attacked in broad daylight by a 23-year-old Miran Amir. It happened at the junction of Snentondale and Port Arthur Road shortly before 5 p.m. Officers quickly attended and provided first aid after multiple reports were received from members of the public about a serious assault following an argument. The victim was found slumped against a wall, having sustained stab wounds to his head, body and shoulder. His injuries included bleeding on the brain, a collapsed lung and laceration to the diaphragm. Before Amir left the scene, he punched one of the victim's friends in the face. Amir was found guilty of attempted murder following a 9-day trial at Nottingham Crown Court, and he was also found guilty of having a bladed article. He was jailed for a total of 23 years. Anna Walska was convicted of causing GBH with intent following a trial. It was found she encouraged the assault and she was sentenced to 5 years in jail. Detective Constable Ruth Towell of Nottinghamshire Police said, "This was a shocking and extreme act of violence that resulted in catastrophic injuries. The brutal nature of the attack and blows inflicted could easily have resulted in a far worse consequence and had a fatal outcome for the victim." The assault was violent and sustained and took place in broad daylight in the heart of a tight-knit community which was full of children who had just finished their school day and members of the public using the local shops. I would like to thank those members of the public who came to his aid and called for an ambulance following this incident, which would have undoubtedly have been a very traumatic experience for them also. So guys, these are a number of news stories coming from the streets of the UK. It's your boy GC. Keep it locked, keep it real.